Hello, my name's Scott White, and I'm here to talk to you all about the sport of rugby. Rugby is a complex sport played with a distinct set of rules and players. By the end of this speech, you as my audience will be able to acknowledge the key characteristics that are distinct to the sport of rugby. Throughout my speech, I will go over four main points: the origin of the sport, the main objectives within rugby, a few of the rules, and the language that's distinct to the sport of rugby in the form of player positions and key terms. Now, rugby originated in the late 19th century over in England. The legend goes with the man of the name William Webb Ellis. During a home soccer match between his school and a neighboring school, he decided to ignore the rules and pick up the ball and run with it down the field. This trend caught on, and the sport of rugby was born, which is the grandfather to our American football. Now, there are only two real main objectives in the sport of rugby, and that's to get the ball from your side of the field to the opposing side of the field. Simple, right? Well, the second objective is to prevent the opposing team from getting the ball from their side of the field to your side of the field. They're two similar objectives that oppose each other, which creates dynamics in the sport. A few of the rules that go along with these objectives are that you may throw, kick, or run with the ball to advance it down the field. However, the ball must only be thrown backwards. You may not retreat with the ball when you're coming against an opposing player. You may not block ahead of the ball. And you must touch the ball down to the ground to score. Also, within the sport, there are two 40-minute halves, and the play only stops when the referee calls either a penalty or an out of bounds, similar to soccer. The language in rugby is very distinct and may sound a bit silly to people. However, player positions are named as forwards and backs. They're split into two different groups with 15 players on the field. The forwards are kind of like in football, they're like the line. They're the bigger guys, they're going to have more contact with each other, and they're a little slower as well. It's rare to see a forward to score in the game of rugby. There are two props within the forwards. There's one hooker, two locks, and three back rows. And all of these play together in the sport, and really they form more of a defensive position. Also, player positions, there are backs. There's a scrum half, and he's similar to a quarterback. He sets up plays, and he gets the ball out from where the backs are. There's a fly half, two centers, and two wingers. And the centers, fly half, and the wingers are very similar to the running backs and receivers within the sport of football. They get the ball and they go downfield to score. Within the sport, there are a few key terms also, which are rucks, mauls, scrums, lineouts, and tries. A ruck is when a player has the ball and is tackled by an opposing player and they both go to the ground. Now, when they go to the ground, the play does not stop. What happens is your team forms a wall of bodies over top of the ball to protect the other team from taking the ball into their possession. And they hold that position until the scrum half gets in and throws the ball out to the backs. A maul is similar to a ruck, however, it's like a standing ruck. It's when a player has the ball and comes to contact with an opposing player, but they don't go to the ground. They're standing, but there's no forward motion. What happens then is your team locks on to you and creates almost a giant mass of people and drives the ball forward down the field. Now a scrum happens after a restart is called, and a restart is only called usually after a penalty. And what happens are the forwards from both opposing sides lock together to form another large mass of bodies. And between these two massive forwards, the balls drop between the middle, and they come together and they push back and forth to get possession of the ball. It's almost like a giant fight for the ball. A lineout happens after the ball goes out of bounds. What happens? The ball has to be thrown inbounds, but the props hold up the hooker to make almost a two-story pyramid of men, and they throw the ball and try to catch it into their possession. Now the other team does the exact same thing to try to get the ball into their possession as well, and it can go either way. A try is the same thing as a touchdown in football. However, you must get into the other side of the field and touch the ball to the ground. If you get to the other side of the field and don't touch it to the ground and get tackled, the ball goes to the other team's possession. A try zone is the same as an end zone, and there's 2 try zones on either side of the field. Now, after listening to, I know that was a lot of information to take in, but listening to it all, I hope that you're more informed about where rugby originated, the main objectives in the sport, a few of the rules, and some of the language that goes along with the player positions and the key terms within the sport. I hope this speech may have struck up some interest in the sport, and I thank you for listening to me.